What's cracking, y'all? You are now watching Boo TV. Appreciate you for stopping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and let's get into the topic for today.
This was kind of a recommendation, not so much the video specifically, but shout out to subscriber/supporter Parker Pettis, 3570. I hope I'm saying your name right. On our Larry Bird Happy Birthday tribute video, Parker put in the comment section this: "Happy birthday, Larry. I lived in Boston during the Bird era. It's so satisfying to see young people today coming to appreciate Larry as the unique player, competitor, and teammate that he was. The perfect Celtic in all respects. I enjoy your videos. I appreciate you and a great deal, and I have a suggestion for a video by you. Red Auerbach. He was the first to put 5 black players on the court at one time, the first GM to name a black head coach, the guy who drafted Bird a year before he would play, a legendary coach, and the best horse trader in the NBA." I got my cigar right here, and today we are going to react to this big red video that I dug up called Basketballography. Big Red, well, not Big Red, but Red Auerbach. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about some of the points he made about Red Auerbach's impact with diversity and how he was pretty much a civil rights activist, though Big Red never thought of himself like that. He was just always doing what he felt was right in any particular situation. But though Big Red doesn't think of himself as a civil rights activist, like I said, through his actions, his decision making, he made historically impactful moves and decisions to break new ground and propel sports, the sports diversity dynamic into a new and positive direction. He had a very prominent role in changing the way people thought and acted in the world of sports when it came to African American players, or just in different positions in general, to be honest with you. Like Parker Pettis said, the Celtics were the first team to draft a black player. Absolutely true. And there was this, unofficial, unspoken thing, but the people that were making the decisions knew about it and spoke about it, that basically, there's this unofficial 3 or 4 black player per team cap that was going on, into the early 60s at the time. And this is something that Big Red went against because he didn't care, even though, there seemed to be indications that Red Auerbach's decision making and putting African American players out on the court was even hurting attendance in the Garden. He didn't give a damn about that. It's not what Big Red cared about. All he wanted to do was make the right decision. And when it came to basketball decisions, it was about putting the best lineup out there, putting the best team out there that can win basketball games. It wasn't about black and white. He didn't see color like a lot of these other owners, GMs, and coaches did. Former 10-time champion of the Boston Celtics, Sam Jones, said this, quote, there was a quota for blacks when I came in 1957. There were only 2 players on each team that were African Americans. And just to briefly touch on the day Red Auerbach put the first African American lineup in there, basically Tommy Heinsohn had an injury, foot injury, which left Coach Red in a position. How am I going to, fill the void of Tommy Heinsohn? Who am I going to put in as that 5th person in the starting lineup? So the 4 African American players that were in the starting lineup that were going to play that game, or did play that game, was Sam Jones, Casey Jones, Tom Sanders, and of course, the man in the middle, one of the greatest centers of all time, arguably the greatest defensive player of all time, Bill Russell. But who was he going to insert into that forward position? So he had two choices. He had the young, aspiring, up-and-coming, second-year player, and John Havlicek, legendary John Havlicek, by the way. Or he could go with the tried and true player who was actually just coming off a hell of a season. You know, a four-time All-Star, Willie Knowles. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. I never know if I am. Willie Knowles, though. So he had a tough decision to make. And, of course, he went with Willie. And at the time, Red didn't even know the ground that he broke, nor did the players. And I think they found out after the game when somebody brought it up to their attention, like, hey, do you realize you just put out the first all African-American starting lineup in NBA history? Yeah, that happened. But like I said, he wasn't thinking about race. He felt that Willie gave the team what they needed and would put them in the best position to win that basketball game. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about racism. It wasn't about making sure you had a white player on the floor. And even with that being said, at that particular time, during that time, there was also an unwritten rule, right? A kind of a gentleman's agreement, is how people like to put it, to assure that there had to be, at all times, each team had to have one white player on the floor at a minimum. But Red didn't give a damn about that. Going against the grains. And I'm sure a lot of owners and GMs and coaches and people in the organization scoffed at Big Red's actions. Made them sick to their stomach. But he's his own man. He's his own boss. And he felt he had to do what was right. And even when, racism was very prominent, very heavy, very accepted during that time, Red Auerbach was always sticking up for his teammates, or for his players. I'm talking about off the court stuff, eating out at restaurants, being able to do activities, or just, for lack of a better word, having the privileges that white people have. Not lack of, that is exactly the word I'm looking for. White privilege. Black people weren't able to do, some of the everyday things we do today at many places, at many venues. And Red always stuck up for them, no matter what. Much respect. All right. I went on a little bit too long, but let's get into this reaction video, shall we?
And welcome to NBA TV's Basketballography. I'm Andre Aldridge. Today we present the man who was the architect and mastermind of one of the most dominant franchises in professional sports history, the Boston Celtics. Arnold "Red" Auerbach was a demanding and fiercely competitive mentor who coached 11 Hall of Famers and led the Celtics to 8 straight NBA championships.
Do I be saying Auerbach? I'm pretty sure I be saying his. I'm apologizing. Look, I always be mispronouncing people's names, and I hate it. It's Auerbach, but I just want to say Auerbach all the time. Have I been saying Auerbach? I probably have. Auerbach, my bad. I have to remember that. My apologies, y'all. No disrespect.
During the 1950s and 60s. After his coaching days were over, he remained in the team's front office for decades, engineering another run of Celtic glory during the 1980s. But Auerbach and his trademark victory cigar have become enduring images in American sports, and his name is legendary in the city of Boston. But his story begins in the early part of the 20th century in New York City.
Well, I grew up in the Williamsburg section of Brooklyn. It was a melting pot. It was during Depression time. I was growing up, and you saw people who were hungry and people who were scrounging around for something to eat. And here you got a father, he's got 4 kids, and he's breaking his hump. We had a cleaning route. Used to pick up from all the tailor shops around New York. And I would work all night pressing clothes. I used to run those machines. Pretty good. I would do like 100 suits from, 10 at night to 8 in the morning. So that'd take the starch out of you, keep you humble.
And he played basketball, which his father thought was, stupid. He thought, you should get into the cleaning business kind of thing and leave the basketball alone. It'll never amount to anything. It's just a stupid game.
When I got out of high school, being from a small school, they weren't breaking the doors down to give me any scholarship. Even though I made all Brooklyn second team, which was pretty damn tough in those days. So when George Washington came up to play St. John's or LIU or whatever, they'd scrimmage us. And Bill Reinhardt, the coach of George Washington, offered me a 4-year scholarship.
During his days at George Washington, Red's love for the game grew, though he soon realized that his true passion was coaching.
I always wanted to be a coach because I thought it was a clean life or something I always wanted to do. And basically, I wanted to teach.
After graduating from George Washington, Red was offered a job to do both at a local community college. But there was a more intriguing opportunity waiting as well.
The job at that time would pay about $2,900 a year. But the NBA started. This is in '46. And I applied. I got the job. And it paid me my first year $5,000. So I took a gamble. I gave up a permanent job to go into there.
After coaching the Washington Capitals for 3 years, Red moved to Boston as the new head coach of the Celtics. There he assembled a team with a freewheeling style of play, and he introduced fans to basketball's first great showman.
Hi there.
We had to sell the game. We barnstormed all through Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine,
Koozie, baby.
All around we played exhibition. I think our first year we won 20-some-odd more games than
That
we did
pass.
the year before.
But while the Celtics drew big crowds and played an entertaining brand of basketball, Red knew the team wasn't built to win a championship.
We had no bona fide center with any kind of bulk. See, Ed McCauley was a Hall of Famer and he was a great player. But Ed McCauley basically was a forward. So I just made a decision. There's only one way that Boston could go anywhere. That's to get a guy that can get us the ball.
And Auerbach knew just the man he needed, a dominating college center named William Felton Russell.
Bill Reinhardt, the coach of George Washington, came over to me. He says, I saw a guy was a sophomore out at San Francisco. He says, I saw him play. He says, set your sights on trying to get that guy. But we had to figure out a way to get him because the #1 pick that year was Rochester.
Lester Harrison, the owner of the Rochester Royals, also owned the arena in which his team played, while Walter Brown, the owner of the Celtics, owned the Ice Capades as well. So Brown and Harrison got together and decided to strike a rather unusual arrangement.
And Walter Brown made a deal with Rochester that if they don't take Russell, he would get him the Ice Capades.
With the deal done, Red would get his man, acquiring the draft rights to Russell, but it was still considered a major gamble.
You put your job on the line. If he turned out to be a dismal flop, we got nothing.
And the first time Red got to see Russell play in person, he was concerned that his worst fears might be realized.
He was playing in a exhibition game, and he played the worst game in his entire career. He was terrible. So we all went over my house. I said to myself, it can't be. It just can't be. But it was. It was just terrible. And he looked me right in the eye, Russell. He says, Coach, he says, that was the worst game I ever played in my life. It'll never happen again. And when he said that, I says, we got a winner.
There were many who questioned Red Auerbach's choice of rookie center Bill Russell.
See, there were a lot of experts that weren't sure he was going to be a good player. He could rebound, he could run, he could play defense, but they didn't realize what else he did. He made everybody around him better. He blocked shots with a finesse.
Russell
He blocked a
Burgers.
shot, we get the ball. It was the ultimate piece of the puzzle.
And in Russell's debut as a Celtic, he would quickly learn just how much support he would receive from his new head coach.
The first game I played, I was blocking shots, and most of the people had never seen anything like that. So when the referees called goaltending, and Red jumped up and screamed and yelled and got a technical foul. At that time and that place, that meant so much to me. And I said to that's really cool that you did it. He says, I can't ask my players to fight for me if I won't fight for them.
Hey, how about carrying the ball, Benji, one time, huh?
Red's fiery antics on the sidelines were legendary, but there was a method to his madness. It was all part of his effort to protect his players and give them every possible edge to help them succeed.
Red Auerbach very unhappy about the call.
They're your boys. You got to do what you got to do to win. If this is what it takes to win, this is what you've got to do.
In 1957, the Celtics reached the NBA Finals against the St. Louis Hawks. Before Game 1, Auerbach showed his players just how much he cared about them and about winning.
Cousy and Sharman came over to me and he said, Coach, the basket is low. I said, oh, God, don't bug me with this nonsense. He says, we can touch the rim. We can never touch the rim. I said, show me. So they showed me the basket was low.
Arnold runs after the general manager of St. Louis. Hey, the hoop is off. In those days, they literally had the guy with the ladder and a 10-foot pole.
So Colonel was in the stands. He sees this commotion. He comes down.
He is the owner of the team, running out on the floor, screaming while he's going at Arnold, screaming nasty things.
And he said, hey, you're up to your old tricks. And he cussed me, and he took a half step towards me, and I hit him.
Red didn't say a word. He just walked up to him, popped him, turned around and walked away. Well, the blood started.
There's the owner on the floor. We haven't had the jump ball for the first game of the finals of the NBA, and our coach, Colcock's the owner.
They broke it up and all, and then they finally get the stick, they're measuring it, and they put it this way, sideways, so it showed us the same. And it wasn't. It really wasn't.
The pregame battle may have been a draw, but Red and the Celtics would go on to defeat the Hawks and capture Boston's first NBA championship.
The all-around play of the Celtics is too much for the Hawks to overcome. Boston downs St. Louis to win the NBA's World Series for the first time and become the professional basketball champion.
I knew we were a great team, but the only thing you could do is pray that they're healthy, that's all.
The following season, the Celtics reached the finals once again, but this time they were hobbled by injuries and lost to the Hawks.
I felt in my mind that we were the better team. If Russell wasn't hurt, it might have entered my mind that maybe we need a little help somewhere. But it's harder to win it the second time than the first time.
With Bill Russell healthy again, the Celtics couldn't be stopped. They stormed through the 1959 season on their way to the playoffs.
Cousy in the lane. Russell, dunk.
Great dunk pass.
And the Garden is going crazy.
Executing Red's team-oriented offense to perfection, Boston cruised into the finals, winning their second title in 3 years. And from that point on, they refused to relinquish that crown. The Celtics reigned supreme over the NBA, defeating every challenger from the West. By 1963, the Celtics had won their 5th consecutive championship and 6th in 7 years. But it would be the last for Bob Cousy. As the backcourt legend retired from the game, the team bid him an emotional farewell, and Red paid tribute to one of the cornerstones of the Celtic dynasty.
All I've heard recently is how you're going to replace Bob. That's my answer. Can't be done because that's Mr. Basketball. They're tough, and we play a long, hard season.
Auerbach was the kind of guy who made things extremely difficult for us if we didn't win. Punishing practices, long practices.
And he'd have these torture drills where he would have you jump from one end of the floor to the other on 2 feet, just jumping, jumping, jumping with your hands in the air. And then he'd make you jump backwards. He'd have these drills where you'd be facing the basket, but he would be behind you. And you had to retrieve the ball.
And the message was very clear. We could not afford to lose because he would make us miserable.
He had a way of making 1 or 2 guys mad or something before a ball game to stimulate you, to get you going.
Like a guy would be in the locker room before the game, maybe having a cup of tea or something like that. And he'd say, look at you, we got a big game going on, and you're sitting here drinking tea. Can't you play without your tea? Or another guy might have a candy bar. He'd just pick on the most mundane, stupid things that he could pick on to get your attention.
I used to go in there, and a lot of times before a very clutch game, you know, you read about in the papers or you see in the movies about the inspiring win one for the Gipper or all that nonsense. I used to do just the opposite. I go in low key as if it was another game. And I basically, I would say, very simple, do what got you here.
That simple philosophy would help the Celtics get back to the finals every year as they compiled a growing string of NBA titles. Though the cast of players would change, they were bound together by Red Auerbach's system that emphasized the team concept. Red had turned his Celtics into a close-knit family, and as the championship banners filled the rafters of Boston Garden, the coach was filled with a sense of Celtic pride.
It was a great feeling. I used to tell him, you know, when we won a championship, I'd say, how does it feel to be a member of the greatest basketball team in the world? I said, what more is there? That's it. Then they'd come back the next year. I'd say to them, well, you have a good summer. You walk around with your chest out. Remember this great organization, this great team. I said, now they're after you. Everybody's after you. You gonna let them take it away from you?
From 1959 to 66, no one would take the Celtics title away from them. With Red Auerbach as coach, they compiled a record 8 consecutive NBA championships and 9 in 10 years. They were the NBA's reigning dynasty, and Red helped to fuel their growing mystique. He infuriated opponents with his famous tradition, the lighting of a cigar when he decided the Celtics had the game in hand. The routine became part of NBA lore.
I didn't realize it was going to, you know,
Savage.
take off that way. But see, what happened was, you're 20 points ahead with 3 minutes to go or 4 minutes to go. Game is over.
Savage.
You see these coaches even today, you know, 20, 25 points ahead, 3-4 minutes to go. They're up there giving signals, and they're pressing, and they're doing this, and they're doing all that kind of stuff. My idea was the game was over. So one day I just casually, I'm sitting there, I lit up a cigar. So I sit there and I put my feet down, I lit up a cigar, and all of a sudden it took off. The red light's a cigar means the game is over, relax, and that's what happened.
But in 1965, Red decided his competitive fire could only burn for so long. He announced it would be his final season as head coach.
I said, I'm going to coach one more year. This is your last chance at me. Because I was burned out, you know, getting burned out. I said, I'm going to do it one more year, and that's all. And it happened. We won it again, right?
Even the unstoppable Wilt Chamberlain couldn't topple Boston. In each of Red's last 2 years, the Celtics defeated Wilt and the Sixers en route to the finals, while creating one of the game's most unforgettable moments.
Greer's putting the ball on a play. He gets it out deep, and Havlicek steals it. Over the sand goes. Havlicek stole the ball. It's all over. It's all over.
With 9 NBA crowns to his credit, Red Auerbach would retire as the NBA's winningest coach of all time. But he wasn't through making history. Red announced that center Bill Russell would succeed him by becoming the team's player coach, making Russell the first African-American head coach in U.S. sports history.
Player coach.
After compiling an unmatched run of success, Red Auerbach stepped down as Celtics head coach, leaving the team in the hands of his incomparable center, Bill Russell.
Russell tried to get me not to quit, but I had made up my mind. And finally, one day he says, "Can I talk to you?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You know, at this stage of my career, I don't really want to play for anybody else but you. Can I have the job?" I said, "You got it." Because who could motivate Bill Russell better than Bill Russell?
For all his skills as a teacher of the game, Red's people skills were just as important.
They always just say, "How did you handle Russell?" You don't handle players, you handle animals. You deal with players. We had a problem, we talk it over.
I call it what the Celtics was under Red Auerbach, basketball's Casa Nostra. He made us believe, like the Casa Nostra, this was our thing. At 2 minutes of a ball game and the Celtics down 10, this would be the conversation. Has anybody got anything? And you were expected to tell him what you thought you could do.
I respected Russell. I respected Cousy and Heinsohn and Ramsey and all those guys. Sean, I respected them. They were college people. They were intelligent.
I think I would have been successful, but I don't think I would have been as successful for any other coach. But I never felt like I was working for Red. I always felt we were working together.
We treat them as men. These are highly intelligent men. And we built up that they knew that if they had a problem, they could see me or they could see Walter Brown, and we would do whatever we could to alleviate that problem.
We were the Celtics, and we cared about each other, and we took care of each other. And I think the basic reason that was so successful is that every one of those guys respected Red, and Red respected us.
I just looked at it, doing my job, winning as many games as I can, and presenting a good product to the fans. We had great fans, and we knew that the bottom line was to win.
Red went on to become general manager of the Celtics, where his commitment to winning would continue. As the architect of their teams of the 1980s, Red would help lead Boston to 3 more NBA championships, and he would garner the love and respect of a new generation of players.
Red, you want to say something?
What I want to say is, you know how it feels because you've been here before. Me, I haven't scored a point. You know?
But you kind of brought the guys here that scored the points.
Well,
so you're overpaid.
The Celtics were a way of life to me. A group of people so diverse you cannot imagine, working together day in and day out for a common goal. Red's theory was 10 players, 2 baskets, 13,000 people, 1 basketball. And we will decide what is done with that 1 basketball.
I like that.
Basketball is a team game. If you have the proper chemistry, proper mystique, and the ability to have fondness for each other, that takes care of a lot of ills. Sure, I know it doesn't take the place of talent. I understand that. But you get both, and you got an unbeatable situation.
Whether it was on the sidelines or in the front office, Red Auerbach had a hand in all 16 Celtic championships in a 30-year span, and he became an NBA icon. The league's Coach of the Year trophy bears his name, one of many honors he's received throughout his lifetime. They also include a retired number with the Celtics, a life-size sculpture in Boston's historic Faneuil Hall, and a number of honorary degrees from universities up and down the East Coast. He's also the author of 7 books, including his first, Basketball for the Player, the Fan, and the Coach. And no one has written more chapters of the NBA's history than Hall of Famer Red Auerbach. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on NBA TV's Basketballography.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful short documentary there about the legendary Red Auerbach. I said Auerbach, see? I didn't say Auerbach. I said Auerbach is a Pokemon name. Gen 1, Snake, Poison type. Anyway, Auerbach, yes. One of the greatest to ever do it, arguably the greatest coach in sports history, not just basketball history. Wherever you got him ranked. Special kind of guy. Special kind of coach. And, you know, every player, like Bill said, man, it never felt like I was, you know, what he said, it didn't feel like I was playing for him, but playing with him, working for him, but working with him. If you and your player can establish that kind of, you know, dynamic partnership and, you know, an equal respect for each other and for what, you know, you're capable of and just, you know, you as a person, that's a very special place to be as a player and a coach. It really is. It really is. As a Laker fan, as a Kobe Bryant fan, he didn't really establish that kind of a relationship with Phil Jackson in his first stint. But on the second stint, it was more of a, we're in this together. I'm working with you, not for you or against you. You know, so I understand that completely. Absolutely. Anyway, you guys let me know what you think about this one. I'm going to go ahead and drop this one under our 1980 Celtics playlist. And I appreciate each and every one of you for stepping in. Sound off in the comment section. Add context. Did I misspoke or did I misspeak on anything? Let me know. And, you know, add to this conversation. Take care. Be blessed. Catch you on the next one. We out, baby.